It was during that same night, and out there in the darkness they came like a whisper in a storm through the blackness. I was woken up by Meadow, and I immediately jumped up thinking something was wrong. All my training kicked in. Honestly, I almost punched her in the face because I told her, don't shake my shoulders, just shake my legs, kick my feet, whatever you do, don't shake my shoulders. But this night, I didn't know what to actually say. I saw her eyes there, those yellow eyes looking through the darkness. And I was like, what? What's going on? What's going on? Who's hurt? What's going on? What is wrong? She simply said, I can't see. I thought I had to fix her eyes or something. She said, no. I can't see around the village. None of us can. It's blocked. I was like, what? It's blocked. I can't see it, she kept saying. I was going, what the hell? I immediately jumped to my feet, got my clothes on really quick, and started yelling, get the guards ready. I'll go talk. Which side? What's going on? She told me which side it was coming from, and I was like, okay, yeah, get the guards ready and tell all our flyers I want them to stay on the ground, but I want them to meet me there. Go, hurry up. She took off like a shot before I even knew where she was going. She was out the damn window. I can never get used to that. I know she's part feline, but how in the hell she gets out of a third-story window that easily just freaks me out. Without even looking, without even seeing anything, without even turning on a light, I located my gear and put everything on methodically, in sequence. And I was even double-checking things before I even knew what was going on. I reached for my weapons. I loaded and locked, and I made my way towards the area she told me. My mind, at that point, sunk back to the beast I once was. Everything was falling back into place, and I hoped that I wouldn't have to release it once again. The look in my eyes as I walked up seemed to actually frighten anyone who was not human. It seems as they could see my personality shift inside. I could feel it. Oh, I could feel it in my bones. It was right there below the surface. When I get to the walls, Leaf can't sense anything. Usually her ability lets her to see out for miles and miles, but she can't. Neither can any of the other felines. She can't tell anything. I asked my dragon folks. They got better eyes. Usually they can see better at night than our feline compatriots. Can they see anything? And they said, no. We can't see anything through the trees. It's like something's blocking them. They can't get it. I thought for a moment, and I simply turned and says, bring me Hana. Everyone was confused. What do you need a Lamia for? Besides, I think she's busy. I turned and said, I don't give a shit how many dicks she has her in her right now. Get her up here now. With that, Zul and Reza took off, using their wings to speed everything up, but staying below the wall if they could. And as they flew away, I kept thinking to myself, what could stop all their senses and powers like that? It doesn't make sense. A few minutes later, very pissed off, Hana arrives, and is very flustered when I told her, I don't care who's doing what to you. I need you right here. Hurry up, come here. She slithered over, complaining, I was with my favorite customer. I said, look, I know they're all your favorites. Now, do me a favor. I want you to look over in that direction. See if you can detect any heat. Thinking that maybe if they could stop the powers, if they can stop any magic, perhaps they wouldn't be able to stop a simple biological function as far as thermal detection of a reptilian, especially a snake. She looks out for a moment, moving her head slightly left and right, and then back and forth even faster. And then she says, oh, great maker! She turns to look at me and says, they're everywhere! I immediately turn and say, signal the alarm. And immediately the bells start clanging as hard as they can. Bells loud enough that can wake everybody. Unfortunately, that seemed to be the signal for the group outside as we see torches begin to light in all different directions. And they're not just static, no. They're charging. They're charging straight towards the walls. We fire some flaming arrows and we can start to see them passing by the flames. And I see, what does it look like? Mostly, I would say maybe 50% human forces. A mix in maybe 20-25% of ogres. And then there's a mix of different creatures and animals. what the hell is going on? But before I have a chance to even do anything, there's a flurry of arrows that begin to fly in and crash in towards us as they rush towards the gate. A few folks are hit, and I begin to reach over, rip the arrows out, and treat them as fast as I can. It only takes a few seconds to actually repair any of these hits, clean any poison out, and then move on to the next one. As I'm patching up the last ones, I look over to the gates, and they're moving the very large doors shut. I curse myself for having the gates open at night and just having guards up. I figured that our felines would be able to take care of all this, be able to see if someone's coming. We'd have plenty of time to lock the gates, but no, of course not. Now I'm in the situation of, it'll be fine. Yeah, right, famous last words, right? But now we need to make sure those gates are shut, and I mean now. Unfortunately, as the raiders are getting close, they set the walls on fire, forcing the guards back, throwing fireballs, some sort of chemical compounds. Arrows are still flying in. The dragons immediately take to the skies, and Reniza immediately hits the ground and falls down behind me. The strike of the arrow pushed her back away from the wall, and down she went another 3 stories to the ground and landing with a thump. 2 arrows sticking out of her torso. I immediately rush down as fast as I can, and as I do, Zul is absolutely pissed, along with Turzak, and they begin to spray fire down towards the approaching raiders. I get to Razar and I immediately rip out all the arrows, and I look over as the other 2 dragonkin slam onto the ground, both of them with arrows in them. I look, and the arrows have been painted black to make sure they can't be seen as they go through the air. Ooh, these guys know what they're doing. That's all I could think as I'm patching them up as fast as I can. Still only takes a few seconds before I have to move on, but those are some long seconds. Magic also is being used to break the walls. Ice, fire, and even lightning is coming towards the walls. They may be thick stone walls at 8 feet thick, but they can only take so much. And I look, and they will not be holding for long as the ground seems to be shifting underneath them, making them looser, making them crack apart, and then the fire and ice making them even weaker, and the lightning doing the worst of it. Seeing the gate nearly breached as many of the guards are trying desperately to keep it shut, as I look over to Reniza, that young girl, I suddenly am up on my feet, shotgun in hand, and every cell in my body wants to get some killing done. In the crack of the door that seems to be getting wider and wider, I empty all 6 shells of double-aught buckshot into the raiders, making many of their heads absolutely explode. Aiming at neck level, I'm able to tear apart the throats of many of them as they're on the ground shaking and screaming and gurgling all the blood. As I reload, Shara, Xena, and the other Consumes teleports in, and I tell them, grab the wounded and get him back to the clinic now! Immediately they do so. The wall also begins to break as families I can see rush the young to the center of town. I'm glad that I set that up as a final defense. I set it up similar to Vatican City, where the actual wall is on the inside, and if we could, we'd simply seal it off, and that would give us some time to mount another defensive wall. But I'm praying that the exterior wall holds, and then the wall breaks. I then unload another full tube of buckshot into the approaching raiders. I see them still coming, and I realize I don't have time to reload, so I simply say, fuck it, drop the shotgun at my feet, draw my rifle, and begin to fire away with all 30 rounds in the magazine. Even with all my shots, sending many of them to the other side of the ether, it didn't matter. A melee of arrows is flying back and forth from either sides. Swords and shields clash, and magic of all kinds is coming from both sides. It is absolute chaos as I reload another magazine. Then the massive group charge, and I realize it's more than we can handle at that point. But there's nothing like having your friends show up with lots of magic. Magic and anything else they can do to stop those who want to do us harm. I can see from the side the Goblin Queen charging in with every goblin in town. They come in a massive horde and overwhelm the flank of the raiders, jumping on them, pulling them down, tearing them apart with their claws, biting and slashing and swearing and striking. Many of the goblins being thrown off and bounced off the area. Unfortunately, some are thrown into the stones, and they are not going to get back up after being crunched like that. But they keep going. The elves use the earth and plant magic to bind all the raiders in place that they can. Once the raiders are bound, they use their arrows to put right through the eyes or the foreheads or anything that's going to stop the brain. As I begin to fire, I actually have to cease fires. All the humans drew their katanas and are already charging on both sides of me, charging straight forward into the raiders' shields. Above me, the Fae are gaining some altitude and begin to use their ability to force sleep on the raiders to make them very lethargic, unable to raise their shields or hold their swords very strong. Yet, unfortunately, though this may work very well against things like orcs or any other type of creature, against humans, well, let's just say adrenaline's a hell of a drug. The battle begins to look like a stalemate for a moment as I reload into a fresh magazine, and that's when we all feel it. A giant buildup of energy from behind me. It only takes a few moments. Then a blast of blue energy into the heart of those raiders, and everything blows to pieces at that moment. Then there's a thump next to me, and I look and I see that Finneran had landed right next to me, his tail still glowing that strange blue energy. I turned to him and said, "Thanks for the assist. Now, tell your wives to get the wounded out as best they can." He turns, they had heard me, and they had already started teleporting everybody out as soon as they could. Then he turned to me and said, "Shall I zap them again?" as he waved his tail around as though he's getting ready to show off, the tail currently sparking with energy. I didn't want him to do it again because the raiders were too close to our own people. I turned to him and say, "Get to the rear of the formation if you can. Capture anybody over there if possible. If possible. If not possible, do whatever the hell you want." With that, he grins, that same evil grin I know I have whenever I know I'm going to enjoy hurting somebody. He takes to the sky with a sudden burst of those giant wings, and as he flies over, the only thing you can see against the black night sky is the blue highlights of those massive wings as it goes overhead, the wind seeming to scare everybody, friend and foe alike. As we continue to fight the raiders back, I can see blue energy off in the distance as the battle rages on. Once the battle is over, I'm there fixing the wounded, most of which are slight wounds, mostly just lacerations and such, maybe the occasional concussion. But I'm still angry about Reniza. She was too young to be hurt like that. I look at her as almost a daughter. I was there. I transformed her myself. And she is just... No. No, no, no. God damn it. And the anger is keeping me going. I look over at most of our healers, and they're trying to heal everybody up to perfect condition. I have to tell them that, no. This is like a MASH unit. Meatball healing until we can stabilize everybody. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody cracking any jokes at that point to kind of calm things down. Everything was bad and bloody. As I move from one patient to another, I'm told I need to stop. I don't even raise my head to see who the hell's telling me. I continue to just keep forcing more energy out of me to heal up as many as I can. Everyone looks at me and I can hear them saying something about how I'm going to pass out, how my heart's going to give out, how I'm just going to freaking die if I keep going. But something they don't realize. This old soldier knows what it's like to be on a foot march, when everything hurts, when you know you've already taken your last step that you can take, but you just keep going. You fall into the comfortable numbness as it pulls more energy out of your body than you have to give. And even though your body should be screeching in pain, you just keep going. As I do this, Fernan brings the leadership, a big-ass orc, over. The orc is all sorts of scorched up as he didn't go down all that easy. However, the orc is not the only one to be brought back. I look over and see there's more that need to be healed. All of them wearing slave collars, a bunch of tomcats, slave girls. It's incredible. That must be why we couldn't figure out where they were coming from. A feline can block another feline. It makes sense, but it looks like these slaves were treated poorly because they look like shit. Before I even get over there, I actually asked Fernan if he can actually remove the slave collars. Scared the shit out of the slaves as these giant hands reached on both sides of the collar and snapped it like it's some sort of hard pretzel. They were surprised. They thought that for sure there were going to be slaves now in this village, but they all just rubbed their necks. Some of them rubbing fresh wounds, seeing that they're still bleeding. I get over there, absolutely dead on my feet, to treat the slaves. Unfortunately, when I treated them, they were so screwed up on the inside that I could see what was done to them. Ribs were broken, fingers were broken over and over again, multiple whip marks on several different sides of the body. I had to tell the tomcats to hold still because I had to actually regrow certain things that had been removed from them. They were amazed at the idea that they might be able to have those back. I had to keep going along, and I realized that there were certain parts that were abused, but they could only be abused in a certain way. As it turned out, male, female, it didn't matter. They were all used as pleasure slaves at one point, and I could tell that very recently for many of them. It seemed as though it was a way to rally the troops to get a kind of, shall we say, pride in the unit, that they would get another go-round with these folks. I was so infuriated. Oh, dear God. I was about to lose my shit as I slowly am reaching for my pistol without even realizing I'm reaching for my pistol. That's when Fenrir turns to me and says, "What are we going to do with the leadership here?" I turn to him, and I turn back to the slaves. I continue healing as I simply say, I can tell their crimes by the wounds on these slaves. Bad stuff. Tell you what. I pause at that point and remove my hands from the slaves. As I'm done, I simply back up a little bit, says, I'm going to give that one to the slaves and the ladies. I'm sure together they can think of an, shall we say, appropriate punishment for the crime. With that, I looked Fenrir right in the eyes. He seemed to know exactly what was about to happen, even though the orc seemingly had no idea. I don't even know if it understood what the hell I was saying anyway, but I really didn't give a shit at that point. There are certain lines you don't cross. He didn't just cross them. He got a running start and pole vaulted over the line with a rocket up his ass. That's how far he went past the line. I didn't care what they were going to do. I was told that the screaming from that orc did not end for 2 days as it echoed across the valley. I unfortunately, or fortunately, couldn't hear any of it, because right about that time, as the ladies moved in and the slaves picked up their weapons to do something, I'm sure, that was going to be very gruesome, but I don't think they cared much about the killing, because the killing wasn't going to give them any satisfaction, but I'm pretty sure 2 days of everything else, I'm sure that was a gas. But it wouldn't matter for me, because guess what? The world went black, and I'm sure I hit the ground hard. I was done. How do I know I was done? Because when I woke up, Terzak and Lee were in my room, overwatching me to make sure I didn't freaking die in my sleep. Keen was actually in the corner making my new coffee machine that I had requested about 2 weeks ago, which I was like, oh, cool, at least I have something to wake me up. They all ran over to see if I was okay, and of course Metal and Leaf somehow knew I was awake. They keep coming through the window, and I swear those girls just leaped from the window, full steam, and now my ribs hurt. Ow. They're all squeezing me so tight, Lee shaking my hand, saying, oh, well done and everything. It's like, okay, yep, I'm awake, yes, I know I'm awake. Please let go before you actually crush my lungs, please. Okay, I'm going to piss blood if you don't let go. Hey, Leaf, let go, God. Claws, ow, 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 claws, ow. Okay, Thank you. Okay. First off, hold on as I reach over, grab a drink, and slam it down. Okay. I know you've all got stuff to say. You're all trying to talk at the same time. So, before you do anything, I've got 2 questions for you. Okay? 1, how long was I out? And 2, where the hell are my clothes? Hello everybody, this is Syntext. I sure hope you enjoyed Part 2, Chapter 4 of Summoned Beyond the Realm. Now, before I leave, I need to send some special thank yous to a few of my supporters, and those would be Prozac and Pancakes, SS Demon, Douglas Scarborough, MTF Guard, Brian Kemp, Erica Gem, Guardian Sage, Julius Boone, and The Lockeen. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntext, ejecting.